No matter how far you have traveled in this world, listener, you have never gone over the edge of its map. What is an unintentional boundary between that which is known and that which lies beyond the knowledge of man. But I have made this journey and will share it with you if permitted. Great wonders awaited me outside of the earth, as they now do you, should my listener have the courage to therefrom depart. Coming. This is the Endless Elsewhere podcast, Chapter 6, The Out-of-Towners. What you just heard was an excerpt from a book, the second in a trilogy that you are at least a little familiar with by now. Welcome back, everyone. First things first, I will not be droning on for the next 30 minutes about what all went down in Season 1. For that, Sylvia, you remember her, the super producer, insisted we make a recap episode, which was released ahead of this one. So if you need a refresher on where we've been, pause this and go listen to that. We will do some looking back, naturally, but there's just so much more in front of us now. As you heard in our Halloween special, my late-night radio show, Circle City Supernatural, was on a rather steep decline. As far as station management was concerned, the fall-off in ratings had occurred under my watch. Therefore, it was my fault. I had somehow taken it from being one of the most popular local programs to one of the least popular. Had I alienated the audience? Had they soured on my personality and hosting style? Or was it something I did off-air? Well, if you're a listener of this podcast, you already know the answer to that. This town had been under a curse for decades before it was finally broken last spring by a ragtag team of scrappy heroes, among whom was yours truly. Because of our efforts, there was now far less supernatural in Circle City. You can see how that would be a problem for the host of a show called Circle City Supernatural. The call-in segment has always been the fan favorite. So with less spooky happenings came less callers. And with less callers came less listeners. You know how a chain reaction works. So, yeah. Station management was actually right. Technically, the drop in ratings was my fault. Despite being born from it, this podcast nearly ended my radio show, and in turn, the cancellation of my radio show would have ended this podcast. Remember, we used the station and its equipment, not to mention its personnel, to make this thing. The fate of both are intertwined, now more than ever. I was really beginning to regret having titled this project with perpetuity. I mean, how embarrassing would it have been to call this podcast The Endless Elsewhere, and then have it disappear after a single season? Thankfully, just as station management was about to put the kibosh on my show, and my podcast, we got a much-needed reprieve. New lifeblood began to trickle in. As you heard at the end of Season 1, we'd driven all of the monsters from Circle City, but there was another kind of invasion underway, an alien one. They'd been here for months, but had managed to go unseen, until recently.
So I was out walking my dog the other night, like I do every night, over in Circle Park, when Priscilla stops dead in her tracks. Priscilla is, of course, my dog. My dear, dear little corgi. Oh, she hears me talking about her. No, baby, I wasn't talking to you. I'm telling the nice radio lady about our adventure the other night. Anyway, like I was saying, when Priscilla here froze up in the middle of our walk, I knew something was wrong. My dog is very intuitive. She senses things other dogs can't. Isn't that right, sweetheart? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Do you want to tell the story, girl? Should I put you on? Huh? You're such a good dog. I love you so much. Oh, sorry, where were we? Oh, yeah. So, Priscilla starts growling. Had her hackles up and everything. Now, the park is lit up pretty good at night. There's lots of lampposts about, but still, plenty of dark places to hide in, you know? Well, I dig the pepper spray out of my purse, and I start looking around. If somebody came at me, I was gonna make them regret it, believe you me. But I didn't see anyone, anywhere. Then Priscilla goes from growling to full-on barking. I mean, she's really losing it now. I'd never seen anything like this. But here's the thing I didn't notice until I glanced down at her. She was yapping at the sky. So I look up, trying to see what she sees, and that's when, whoosh, over the park goes, well, they looked like people except they had wings. They went swooping by just above the treetops. I felt the wind of them rush past me, and that was it. I got little more than a glance, but it was a good glance. I don't know who these strangers were, but they sure looked like angels to me. What do you think, Priscilla? Do you think they looked like angels?
I've heard people calling your show about these, angel strangers, stranger angels, strangels, or whatever you guys are calling them. Guess what? I saw them too. A couple days back this was. That really nice Tuesday we had. The wind was cold, but the sun was warm. The weather's a big deal to a guy like me. It can make or break my day because I'm a street vendor. I push a hot dog cart downtown. Now then, the lunch hour is my busiest time naturally, but after that, when everybody heads back to work, I'm more or less alone on the sidewalk. So when I saw this here thing I'm about to tell you about, I'm the only one who did. Anyway, I'm cleaning up the condiment rack, because customers always make a mess of it, being in such a hurry and all. I'm wiping up the mustard and the ketchup and the whatnot when this huge shadow passes over me. Like an idiot, I look straight up and just about blind myself. Obviously, I look right back down, trying to blink away all the spots in my eyes. Well, as I'm staring at the street, waiting for my vision to right itself, I see another shadow go by. A big one. Like the first. Then a couple more. I only caught me some glimpses, but the shadows looked like people. People with wings, though. I tried looking up again, this time with a hand in my eyes, but they was already gone. They're some fast suckers, let me tell you.
I'm a transit driver for the city. Been behind the wheel for 10 years next winter. Seen a lot of crazy stuff in my time. Stuff you wouldn't believe. I once made a stop where this crackhead got on the bus wearing nothing but caution tape. This fool had wrapped himself up in it like a mummy. Bunch of loonies in this town. But that's not why I'm calling. I called to tell you that I spotted those people with wings everyone's going on about. Didn't get a great look at them. Doesn't seem like anyone ever does. Anyway, here's my story. So I got stuck in the Pulaski Tunnel in rush hour, which is pretty common. But as I'm sitting there waiting to start moving again, I spot something up ahead, outside the tunnel in the sky. Something very uncommon. I can't even tell you what I'm looking at. It was a bunch of flying somethings. But then they dipped down and swooshed into the tunnel, breezing right over all the cars coming right at me. I thought they were going to crash through my windshield. But then at the last second, they pulled up and went right over the bus. It happened so quick. I know what I saw, though. The thing is, I'm the only one who did. I turned around in my seat to my passengers and I'm like, did anyone see that? Well, they were all looking down at their phones, so they missed it. Then I started looking around to all the other cars stuck in the tunnel with us, trying to find someone, anyone who saw what I did. Just to make sure I wasn't crazy. But they were all looking down at their phones too. I guess everyone got bored in traffic and it's just what people do. A tunnel full of commuters and I'm the only one who saw the Strangels.
Yeah, I saw the Strangels.
I just saw the Strangels.
Who hasn't seen the Strangels?
Strangels?
Strangel.
Strangels.
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 Strangel.
Strangels.
And just like that, they had a name. A clumsy portmanteau to be sure, but at least we had something to call them now. These could only be those winged figures Joseph and I had seen emerging from the portal in that video sent to us at the end of Season 1. More on that in a minute. But it wasn't just visitors from another world that were lurking about our town. Along with sightings of the Strangels, we started getting reports of other mysterious figures.
Get this. So a couple of weeks ago, I was in Cafe Quincy waiting on my non-fat, half-skin double soy mocha with extra whip, right? When it's finally ready, the barista calls my name and sets the drink on the counter. Normal stuff, right? Well, just when I started toward it, some jerk grabs my coffee and heads right out the door with it. I yelled at him, but he kept going, and I know he heard me. The barista offered to make me another, but I didn't have time to wait. I was already late for work, and that's probably why I went after this dude. Normally I wouldn't have, but it had been a garbage morning already, so I was in a mood. Anyway, I follow him down the sidewalk, then into the alley where he stops suddenly and spins around to face me. He's got this weird look on his face. He's smiling, but he doesn't seem happy, Also, he's dressed weirdly. He's wearing a suit, but it's not right. Anyway, he holds out the coffee, right? Offering a fake apology about the mistake he's made. But when I take hold of the cup, he doesn't let go. While we both still have a hand on it, this weirdo leans in close to me and asks if I've seen anything from the Channel 7 news helicopter. Anything inexplicable. That was his word, not mine. He kind of threw me off. How did this creepus know that I was a pilot or that I worked for Channel 7? I was like, no. Then he asked, are you sure? And he was really kind of freaking me out. That's when I let go of the coffee and told him to keep it. I turned and walked off. And when I was on the sidewalk again, I glanced back into the alley. He was still just standing there. When he saw me looking at him again, he took the lid off the coffee and brought the cup up to his mouth. He didn't drink it, though. Just held it there as all the steam came up around his face. He was smiling that freaky smile again through the steam. Weirded me completely out.
It had been a long day of meetings and phone conferences and all that crap that makes people not want to work in business. I was tired, I was cranky, and all I wanted was to get home to a hot bath and a bottle of red. It was pretty late by the time I finally left the office. Most everyone was long gone. Actually, come to think of it, I didn't see another person until I got to the skywalk. It connects our building to the parking garage across the street. Anyway, standing there at about the halfway point was this woman. So she's right in the middle of the skywalk, doing like this power stance or something. And she's not looking out the glass one way or the other.
but rather she's staring in my direction, right at me, like she was waiting for me to come around the corner. This was a little off-putting, sure, but I wasn't alarmed. She was dressed like a businesswoman, like me, so I thought she was, someone I simply hadn't seen before. People come and go all the time. Well, I smiled politely as I started across the skywalk, assuming she'd step aside, but she didn't. And as I got closer, I saw that her clothing, while professional, was a weird style with angles that didn't quite make sense. It's hard to describe, but for instance, all the seams were in the wrong places. It was very odd. Anyway, she remained completely still as I walked by. It was only her eyes that moved, rolling to the side to follow me as I went past her. I was maybe 5 steps away when she called out to me, by name, and without ever turning around. I stopped and glanced back. I was like, "Excuse me?" Then she said, "Do you ever see anything from the window of your 7th floor office? Anything that you would describe as inexplicable?" I didn't answer her. I couldn't have. Her question had stunned me silent. How did she know my name, or where my office was? Then her head turned very slowly, so that her face appeared in profile over her shoulder. "Well, keep your eyes open," she said. I turned and started walking again, quickly crossing the rest of the skywalk to the parking garage, to my car. Then I sped out of there. This was last week, and I haven't seen her since. I really hope I never do again. There was just something about her. She was just wrong.
So it was my daughter's birthday yesterday. We were doing a little surprise party for her, so I had to get the kid out of the house while Claire set it all up. Claire is my wife, by the way, and our daughter's Anna. Anyway, I took Anna to the playground just down the street. She wanted me to push her on the swing. She loves to swing. The kid can't get enough of it. So we kill about an hour on the swings when I get a call from her mom. I stepped away before I answered, because I didn't want Anna to overhear me ruin the surprise, So Claire was like, "It's all ready. Everyone's here. You can bring her home now." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. We'll be there in a minute." Meanwhile, I hear Anna saying, "Higher, Daddy, higher." I turn back around and there's this man pushing my daughter on the swing. She didn't even realize it wasn't me. Well, you can only imagine my reaction to some creepus stepping in and pushing my daughter on the swing. I marched back over there with every intention of punching this guy's lights out when he greets me by my name. My full name. This surprised me enough that I kinda just got stuck in place, I just stared at him. I remember he wore a suit, but it was really weird looking. Maybe it was an older kind, but then again, for all I knew, it could have been the latest fashion. That's not really my world. Anyway, this dude then tells me that I operate a tower crane and that I've been working on the new Imperial Hotel downtown. These things are true, by the way. So I then demand to know who he is and how he knows this stuff about me. The guy ignored my questions and asked one of his own. He had asked if I'd ever seen anything while operating my crane, being so far up, with such a commanding view of the city. I asked, "Like what?" "Like anything inexplicable," he said. I just simply told him no, which is the truth, but he had no reaction to it. Nothing. I couldn't read him at all. Whether he believed me or not, I have no idea. So, my daughter was slowing down on the swing now, and she started calling for me to push her again. Instead, I grabbed her up and carried Anna back to the car, just to get away from this weirdo. Now here's the really, really creepy part. The part that's going to stick with me forever. As I was pulling out, I looked back and saw that weirdo now sitting in the swing my daughter had been using. And there was now another man with him, dressed just like he was, pushing him on the swing. One grown man in a suit, pushing another grown man in a suit. I mean, what is that? It has to be the weirdest crap I've ever seen in my life.
So who are these men and women skulking about town, who question and intimidate, who dress and speak so bizarrely that to recount a run-in with them is to sound like a crazy person yourself? In my opinion, they can only be agents, operatives of some kind. We've all seen this movie before. The extraterrestrials start showing up, then government spooks do likewise. Well, I say government, but really you know that I mean the cabal, who work behind such facades. And their appearance here, like everything else apparently, might actually be my fault. Our first season began with a call from one of the Cabal's rogue scientists, announcing that a wormhole had formed here in Circle City. Then that season ended with Joseph and I announcing that we now had footage of this event. Actual proof of not only the portal opening, but of otherworldly visitors coming through. Well, as compelling a piece of evidence as it is, the video is not without its flaws. There are holes in it, so to speak. The clip was highly edited before it was sent to us. Most notably, all of the sound had been removed. Why this was, we couldn't even guess. Our informant had maintained their anonymity very well. Tracking them down was simply impossible. I suspected that they wanted to talk. I mean, why else send us the clip if they didn't want the truth to come out? But we had to wait for them to come forward, when they were ready. And now, months later, they finally were.
They've reached out, the person who witnessed the event. They will speak to you guys, but only the two of you.
Really? Why now?
No idea. But so long as we agree to withhold their identity, this person will consent to an interview.
You're sure they're legit? This wouldn't be the first crank we've had to deal with.
This one feels different.
Well, if you think they're for real, we'll meet with them. Sylvia?
Call your partner.
Oh, hey Lindsay, how's it
Joseph, the person who filmed the portal opening wants to talk to us. We've set up a time to meet for later today.
Wow, okay. I'll pick you up at the station here in a bit. Lindsay, you still there?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
It's just that, well, I think this is probably the beginning of season 2.
Yeah, probably.
Which is why I'm recording.
Sure.
I was kind of hoping you'd say something, I don't know, cooler, to kick off the new season.
Oh, of course, I gotcha. Do you want me to try again?
Do you mind?
It's totally fine. I'm getting used to this kind of thing with you. All right, you do your bit, and then I'll come back with something, cooler.
Great. Yes, thank you. Okay, here we go. Joseph, the person who filmed the portal opening wants to talk to us. We've set up a time to meet for later today.
Let's do this. What? No good? What about, let's try this. It's go time.
Ugh, that's even worse.
What is wrong with... Yeah, how about this? You just tell me what you want me to say, and I'll say it.
Don't worry about it. We don't have time for this anyway. Just come get me.
I'm on my way.
Oh, wait. That. Say that again.
You like that?
I do. Just, zhuzh it up a bit.
Zhuzh?
Yeah, here we go. Joseph, the person who filmed the portal opening wants to talk to us. We've set up a time to meet for later today.
I'm on my way.
Perfect. Good job.
Oh, thanks. I was trying not to go too low, but at the same time give it just enough gritty emphasis, to fully convey the right amount of gravity. And...
Yeah, totally. You can come get me now. Most everything about the conversation you are about to hear will be veiled in one way or another. Per the request of our informant, we have digitally altered their voice. We're not even going to reveal where or when exactly we spoke to them. There is even a part in the following interview where we bleep out certain information, and another section that we chose to cut out altogether. The goal was to avoid surrendering even the remotest clue to this person's identity. Maintaining their anonymity was of the utmost importance to the witness. We were soon to learn why. There's no one here.
Oh, I think they're here. They just want to make sure we're alone before they show themselves.
Not exactly.
Whoa, hi there. You startled me.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure it was really you guys. But there's no mistaking your voices. It's nice to meet you both. You could call me a fan, I guess. And maybe the one listener who actually believes your podcast to be true. But hopefully we can change all that.
I'm already recording if that's okay.
I expected as much, Lindsay. Sorry, that was weird, wasn't it? Saying your name like we know each other. It's just that when you listen to a podcast, you get familiar with the people. And even if they don't know you from Adam, you start to feel like they're friends of yours. Does that make sense? Do I sound like a total loser right now?
No, not at all. You can absolutely call me Lindsay. This is Joseph, but you already know that.
How do you do? Thank you very much for speaking with us.
I'm happy to do it. Sorry about all the cloak and dagger stuff, and for having to meet here at the...
Of course. If you're ready, we can jump right in.
Yes, absolutely.
For the listener, we are speaking with what seems to be the only person in Circle City who witnessed the opening of a
transcendental bijection of space. That's how Dr. Chow identified it when he called into your show. And now he's missing. Probably dead. He made a foolish mistake by giving his name, letting his voice be heard. I'm not taking that risk. It's why I removed all the audio from that clip before I sent it to you. You could hear me in the background mumbling. A lot of frightened swearing, mostly.
Oh, I see. And this is why you asked that we disguise your voice for this interview.
I appreciate you agreeing to that, especially because it makes all I have to say that much more unbelievable. But I guess I'm not as brave as you guys. I know you think being public figures protects you from them, and you're probably right. For now, anyway.
From them? You mean those we've been calling the Cabal?
Yes. They snuffed out Chow as quickly as they could. And they'll do the same to me if I give them the chance.
We don't know for sure that Dr. Zhao is dead.
Yeah, he probably is, though.
Right?
Okay, can you tell us why you sent that footage in when you did? It's a video without sound, and you sent it to a podcast. Why Joseph and I, and not like Channel 7?
I was late to finding the Endless elsewhere. But when I did, I realized you were the only ones trying to get to the truth. I knew I could trust you with the video. Simple as that. Channel 7 would have buried it. They're a network affiliate and therefore plugged into the corporate machinery of the Cabal.
Gotcha. Can you walk us through that night, starting with where you shot that footage?
It was an abandoned factory of some kind. It's on the far west side of the city.
Aside from it being a factory, do you remember anything else about it? Your video is very dark and then very bright. Discerning any detail of the background has been difficult.
I'm honestly not sure. I hadn't been to that part of town until then. What I can tell you is that there were all these metal buckets, if that helps at all.
Buckets?
Yeah, huge ones, all rusted out, hanging from hooks and chains.
Oh, crucibles. They were crucibles. You're talking about the old Abshir iron foundry.
You know it?
I'm familiar, yes. We'll talk later.
You said you hadn't spent much time in that part of the city before. Could you tell us why you were there? The witness went on to answer my question, but when reviewing the recording later, Sylvia pointed out a couple of key places in the story that could have been used to identify the witness. So this is that portion of their story that we chose to omit. We resume with the appearance of the wormhole.
It began with this weird noise. Maybe noise isn't even the word. It was more of a feeling, like a tingling, like something moving in the air. I don't know exactly how to explain it. I've never experienced anything even remotely similar. It was scary, sure, but at the same time, wonderful. Of course, my reflex was to get my phone out and start filming. It's just our knee-jerk reaction these days, isn't it? Something crazy happens, you start recording.
So that's when the portal appeared?
It came out of nowhere, and I absolutely mean nowhere. You saw the video. When it happened, it was like the world or reality or whatever was suddenly revealed to be nothing more than a picture. The picture was then torn open from the back. It really messes with your head to see it, believe me. So the portal opens and it's total chaos. There's all this noise and wind. I'd compare it to a storm, but storms tend to be dark. And this thing here was just so bright. I kept on filming, of course. Sorry it got so shaky. I was crawling into one of those buckets. What did you call them, Joseph?
Oh, they're called crucibles.
Right. I was too scared to run, but I had enough sense to hide, and I'm glad I did too, because that's when the first of those things came through. It looked like a person at first, but then I saw that it had wings. And I was like, nope, not a person. And then more started to appear.
That's where the footage cuts off.
Yeah, I couldn't keep filming. I was in full panic. I ducked down into the crucible and assumed the fetal position. I'm not as brave as you guys, I guess.
Before you did, were you able to see how many there were?
I didn't see, no. Sorry. I was too busy trying not to make a peep.
I don't suppose you saw if any of them were holding an orb of some kind, did you? It would have looked like
a small spherical artifact glowing an eerie emerald, the device by which doorways between worlds are opened and closed. I'm a listener of the show, remember? No, sorry, Joseph, I didn't see it. One of them may have had it. It's entirely possible. But if it glows the way it's supposed to, I feel like I would have spotted it. I mean, I did see their eyes.
Their eyes?
Yeah, you can't tell from the video because the portal light overexposed everything. But their eyes glow. It sounds creepy, but it was actually kinda pretty.
Joseph?
That checks out. According to the manuscripts, the people of the other world have bioluminescent eyes.
Interesting. So what happened next?
Well, the Wormhole Valley portal thing clapped shut, taking all that green light with it, so the place got all dark again. As for me, I continued to lay right where I was, down in that crucible, just as still as I could be. I even tried to hold my breath as I listened in on their conversation. Yeah, that's right. I heard them whispering to each other in a language I didn't recognize because, aliens. Then I heard a lot of flapping and, well, that was that. I peeked out of my hiding place, but the only thing I saw was the dust they'd stirred up with their takeoff. I looked up to this big open skylight in the roof and assumed they left through there. They were out in the world now, soaring over our city. As far as I know, they still are.
We ended the interview here, the witness wishing Joseph and I luck with our investigation, and also with staying safe. Early in the conversation, they had seemed happy to help us. By the end, however, I started to see regret in their eyes. I think the witness had realized that by speaking with us, by giving us our next lead, they had also directed my partner and I into certain danger. We thanked them for their time, then parted ways. Joseph and I were crossing the street, heading back to his truck, when he stopped abruptly.
What's up?
Joseph, come on. Traffic.
Get out of the road, idiots!
Hey, I'm podcasting here. Joseph, let's go. What is wrong with you? I grabbed his arm and pulled him along. As I did, I glanced back to see what had snagged his attention. It was a manhole cover. It had been engraved with the words Abshire Iron Foundry, as well as a symbol, what I assumed to be their family crest. The Abshires, once upon a time, had cast every sewer lid in Circle City, which were still in use to this day, even years after the closing of the foundry. When we got into the truck, I knew we weren't heading back to the radio station.
I just want to have a look.
Do you think we'll find anything?
It's doubtful, but just the same.
You said you were familiar with the place. How so?
From my days of story collecting, Elliot Abshire was featured in one of the more controversial accounts that I published. His father, Hansel Abshire, built the foundry and left it to Elliot along with the family fortune after he died.
So what became of Elliot?
Let's just say things did not end well for him.
Or for the foundry.
Right. The place closed up ages ago and has just been rotting there ever since.
So was it just dumb luck that the portal opened inside the foundry, where no one would see it? Well, almost no one.
It must have been. According to the Pendergast manuscripts, where the orb is activated on one world corresponds to where it will open on the other. In the books, Pendergast was able to make these calculations, but whoever used the orb from over there would not have had an earthly frame of reference.
Meaning they wouldn't know where it would open in our world.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think they just got lucky that it opened where it did.
When discussing the trilogy in Season 1, we kind of just had to sidestep this other planet to focus on more earthly places, more relevant places like the Land of Phantoms. But now that its people are here, it seems like the right time to do a deep dive on this alien world. That should probably be our next episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Until that fateful night all those months ago, our informant had never been to this part of the city before. I hadn't either. And in both cases, I now saw why. It had nothing to offer except a drab view of yesteryear's manufacturing. When the foundry closed, it seemed to have taken everything within a mile radius with it. Before we reached the place, we had to pass through a sprawling district of vacant warehouses. There was even a bar called Sparks that, no doubt, once catered exclusively to the ironworkers, but it too was abandoned and ruinous. Joseph pulled up next to it and parked. This was as far as we could go in the truck. A flimsy chain-link fence encircled the old foundry, put up in some more recent time to keep out the homeless. I couldn't imagine anyone being desperate enough to seek shelter inside. The place was grim. Joseph and I leaned forward in our seats, peering up through the windshield to behold the massive brick edifice, its rusted smokestacks lancing into the sky. I remember sitting with my partner on that hill in the cemetery last spring and seeing the foundry. Long dead, it still held a prominent place in the Circle City skyline. I don't think that I can climb that fence.
You won't have to. There'll be a break in it somewhere, most likely around back.
How do you know?
There's fresh graffiti on that wall over there. You see it?
You think some punk kids cleared the way for us?
Yes, I do. Come on.
We stepped out of the truck and commenced to stroll down a deserted street enclosed by the forsaken husks of industry. I, for one, was trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. I did not want the highlight of my day to be getting arrested for trespassing, but since there was no one around to report us, we were free to do as we liked. It was actually quite creepy knowing just how alone we were. Joseph and I were still very much in the city, but we didn't see another soul. This was a weird little pocket of nothing hiding inside a thriving metropolis. It looked, and indeed felt, post-apocalyptic. We came around to the back of the foundry, and as predicted, Joseph found a place in the fence where a corner had been cut. It remained attached, hanging in such a way as to appear whole, but the chain-link flap could be lifted up for easy access. Joseph, the eternal gentleman, held the door for me, so to speak. I made a face at him as I ducked under the chain-link flap. I didn't like this. Not at all. My lofty partner had more difficulty than I did getting low enough to pass under the fence, but he managed it. Now both of us were inside. We exchanged looks, then strode across a vast lot of cracked asphalt, up to a rear entrance which was, surprise surprise, unlocked. We took only a few steps inside before pausing to survey the place. We knew the building to be enormous, but the interior was almost completely open, so it felt even larger from inside. There were no walls, no hallways, just one massive chamber. Many of the grimy, yellowed windows had been smashed over the years by vandals, so the daylight streamed freely inside, though it didn't do much to warm the place, which was considerably cooler within than without. I buttoned up my jacket against the chill as we moved forward. Let's not linger long, okay? Okay? Joseph, what are you looking at? Oh, is that it?
It has to be.
Joseph and I are looking up at an open skylight through which the Strangels likely took flight from this place. According to our informant, anyway.
Which means it would have been right over here somewhere. This here. This crucible. This is the one they hid inside. So, yeah, it would have been here. Right here. This is where the portal opened. Oh, I wish I'd been here. Can you imagine seeing it in person? What that would have been like? What was that?
An animal? There's no one here with us, so an animal, right? Unless... Do you think the Strangels came back?
Not just yet. Whoa.
Oh, I really wish people would stop doing that. Who the heck are you? From where he'd come, I have no idea. But there he stood. Before us was a man of about 40. He could have been younger, though. His full beard aged him a bit, as did his business casual attire. The man's bolo tie and dingo boots gave him a southwestern flair, but if there was an accent to go with it, I didn't detect it. He was affable and warm, but to extremes that were unnerving, especially in the strange circumstances and setting of our first encounter.
Wow. Wow. I have been wanting to meet you in person for a long time now, Miss Mallyn. And Mr. Leck. Big fan of you, too.
You know who we are?
I've been a listener of Circle City Supernatural for ages. And now you've got this podcast? It's great. It's all great. I love it. Sorry to gush. It's just so dang good to finally run into the pair of you.
Thanks.
Oh, Fivecoat. That's what you can call me. You asked who the heck I was a minute ago. I'm Fivecoat.
Fivecoat? Is that a real name?
You'd like some ID to prove it? Happy to oblige.
The man reached into an inner pocket of his blazer and produced a badge, proffering it for us to examine. It bore the seal of a government agency, but one with which we were wholly unfamiliar. The insignia was a black circle trimmed in yellow and filled in blue. Inside was a pair of black laurels and a smattering of black stars. These surrounded the emblem of a shield. Depicted on this was an eagle swooping over castle battlements while clutching a spear in its talons. It was a dramatic image, to be sure, but it was the wording on the badge that gave me pause. The U.S. Department of Heartland Security. Heartland? Never heard of you.
We're very new.
What are you doing here?
Same as you. Investigating. My work is actually classified, but just between us friends, I'm here conducting an operation to capture some illegals. We can't have undocumented aliens running around town, am I right?
That's so thinly veiled, I'm not sure it even counts as a euphemism.
That's funny. I like you, both of you. You're a good match. Good chemistry. And it really comes through in the podcast.
We know what you're doing, and you can stop now.
What am I doing? I thought I was just being pleasant. Downright cordial.
Your counterintuitive behavior is a ploy to unnerve and intimidate us. I've been hearing from people all over town who've encountered your type. Well, Agent Fivecoat, or Operative Fivecoat, whoever you are, it's not going to work on us. My partner and I have faced down far scarier things than the likes of you.
Oh, I know. Like I said, I've been listening. But please don't mistake me for some nasty little creature that you can poke with a sword or swat with a gauntlet. Boys, if you'd be so kind.
Who are you talking to? There's no one else here.
Lindsay?
I looked from Fivecoat to Joseph. My partner was covered in little red dots, and glancing down, I saw that I was too. Obviously, these were laser sights. Hidden in the shadows of the rafters of the building were at least a dozen snipers. We never saw them, but they saw us, and now they were letting us know it. When Joseph slowly lifted his hands into the air, I did likewise.
Put your hands down. Come on, guys. No one's in trouble. Sorry for the demonstration, but I need you two to understand who you're dealing with. We saw you coming a mile away. You were only allowed to get as far as you did because, well...
You wanted to meet us?
Yes, so I could thank you in person. You've done us such a service. You have no idea.
What's that supposed to mean? If your true employers are who I think they are, then we are their enemy.
Oh, Mr. Leck, you conspiracy guys are all the same. You never see the bigger picture. You even said it yourself in the podcast. Everyone does their bidding. Most just do so unaware. Even those who think they're fighting them are only serving their purpose.
What are you...
Oh, hang on.
Fivecoat put a hand up to silence me so that he could better hear another voice. I only now saw that he wore a small earpiece. Someone was speaking to him. When they were finished, he gave an unnecessary nod of assent, then returned his attention to us.
Well, kids, that's our time. I'll walk you out.
Fivecoat whirled around on his heels and started back to the door. Joseph and I, still spotted in red, had no choice but to follow after him. In the parking lot again, we saw a black SUV parked diagonally, the door hanging open. When our presence had been reported to the operative, he'd clearly come as quickly as he could. We hadn't heard him pull up or even enter the foundry. He'd done both with a disturbing stealth. He was like those snipers in the rafters. We only became aware of him at his wish. I'd told Fivecoat that he could not intimidate us. I was wrong.
Now, guys, I gotta ask you not to come back here, okay? This whole area is under surveillance, and I'll have to arrest you if you try this again. They want me to take you in now, but we owe you for helping us out. So you've earned at least one indulgence as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately for you guys, it's my call to make. Yeah, I'm in charge of all this. Got something of a promotion recently. No big deal. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go. I'm even gonna let you keep the recorder you've been trying to hide in your jacket, Miss Mallyn. Have a good day, you two. Oh, open the front gate so you don't have to crawl under the fence again. Your truck is just where you left it. Bye now.
Neither Joseph nor I said a word as we turned and walked, knowing full well that we were being carefully monitored. We had felt so alone in this place, and yet we were not. The pair of us had been surrounded the entire time. All throughout the foundry, and even in the nearby warehouses, no doubt, highly trained operatives were poised, watching and waiting for Fivecoat's order to take us down. His demonstration of power was an effective one. We loaded into the truck and drove across town to the east side to get as far from the foundry as we could. I was so rattled and buried in my own thoughts, I didn't realize where Joseph was taking us until the truck came to a stop outside of Joe's diner.
Hey, it's the podcasters! How's it going, you guys? The usual?
Hi, Piper. Thank you, that'd be great.
You guys good? You both look a little shaken up.
We're okay. Is it fine if we grab that booth in the back?
Absolutely. I'll be right over with your coffee.
Why did we come here?
As we were walking back to the truck, I snuck a photo of Fivecoat's vehicle.
That SUV? Why?
Here we go. Do you guys want to eat or just the coffee for now?
Piper, do you remember when Lindsay and I started coming here together last spring when we asked you about Dr. Zhao?
Of course I do. Also, I listened to the podcast, so, you know.
Right. You said that after Zhao had left, an SUV pulled up out front here like it was someone looking for him. Would you know this vehicle again if you saw it?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe? It was dark out, and the headlights were shining right in my eyes. Plus, it just looked like any other SUV. There wasn't anything distinct about it.
Indeed.
Joseph took his phone in hand and showed Piper the picture on his screen.
It's kind of blurry. Where did you take this?
That's unimportant, don't worry about it. Could this be the same SUV you saw that Halloween night after Zhao left here?
I suppose it's possible. Yeah, it could be the same one. But again, it was just a generic SUV. Not much different from that other one that's been hanging around.
What? What other one?
Yeah, for a couple weeks now. It pulls up and just sits in the parking lot for a while, then leaves.
Does anyone ever get out?
Nope. And the windows are darkly tinted, so you can't even see who's inside.
Have you called the police on them?
Not yet. They're never here for long, and it's like they're checking on something, then they clear out. Sorry, I can't be more help.
No, you've actually been very helpful. Thank you, Piper.
No problem. Yell at me if you need me. I'll be in the back.
So what's with the car talk?
Fivecoat's SUV is more than just unmarked. It has no brand at all. Heartland Security's vehicles are like their clothing, completely custom. They're designed to be generic enough to blend in, but also unique enough to be unidentifiable. When these operatives are reported in connection with some bizarre activity, there's no way for a witness to properly identify them or their vehicles. And then, of course, there is the misleading speech and behavior, like what we've been hearing from your callers.
So you think it was one of these Heartland security spooks that showed up here looking for Zhao? Who is still showing up here, apparently.
I think it was and is Fivecoat himself. You heard him. He said he's been listening to your show for ages, and now this podcast as well. I think he was monitoring Circle City Supernatural when someone dared to say the name of Pendergast. He could have made a call and got the signal cut to the station. Based on what we just saw at the Foundry, there's not a lot he can't do.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Heartland Security. That's the Cabal's newest creation. An actual government agency for their operatives to work under. It gives them the carte blanche to do as they like without interference from local law enforcement. I've been waiting for this. I knew it was coming, I just didn't expect it so soon.
You were expecting this? Oh, of course. That story from the future. The one you got because of the Dreamcatcher.
Right.
Returning listeners may recall us very, very briefly mentioning the Dreamcatcher device in Season 1, and then quickly shying away, as we were not yet ready to discuss it in depth. If you've read the first volume of the companion book to this podcast, aptly titled The Endless Elsewhere, you already know all about this. If you haven't, well, the final story Joseph published before discovering the Pendergast manuscripts was sent to him from the future. Yes, you heard that right. And it details a cataclysm that will befall our fair town. We'll get into the Dreamcatcher later this season, but it came up in our conversation at the diner because a big part of that story concerns, you guessed it, a clandestine government agency known as the Department of Heartland Security. The future is here. Should we...
No, it's still too soon. This podcast already has enough weird devices and dangerous time travel. We'll have to cover it eventually, but let's stick to what's in front of us for now.
Gotcha. I guess the prediction of Heartland Security is about all that matters right now anyway. Speaking of which, shouldn't we be in some black site detention center? Fivecoat said we'd earned an indulgence and that's why he let us go. What does that even mean? He thinks we've actually done something to help the Cabal when all we've done is expose them.
He was just trying to get in our heads. Besides, what was he going to arrest us for? Trespassing? A government agency on par with the CIA and FBI busting some podcasters for crawling under a fence? No, that would only raise questions and bring attention to them. And that's not what the Cabal wants.
I guess. I hope. Well, it's happening, isn't it? Just as Hardesty said it would.
The sleeper cells
are waking up. Hardesty said there were deep cover operatives planted all throughout Circle City for years now, living under false identities, just waiting for their orders. He said we may even know one of them.
More coffee, guys?
No thanks, we're good.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to believe, but it's probably true. We can only trust each other from now on.
What about Sylvia and...
No, I'm sure she and Gary are fine, but it's just you and me out here doing the work. We need to look after each other. I trust you, Lindsay. Implicitly.
I trust you too, Joseph.
Good, because we're working on a whole new level now. The Cabal is making a move, and we are doing the one thing they do not want. We are talking about it.
What exactly are they doing?
They're looking for the Strangels, but more specifically, the orb. They've long sought the artifact, but they've never been able to keep a hold on it. The one time they briefly had it, they tried to invade the other world.
You think they're gonna try that again?
They already rule the Earth. Why not extend that sovereignty to another planet?
So why is this Heartland Security hanging around the Foundry? They must think the Strangels will come back.
It's gotta be the PX-39.
Hardesty's device, the wormhole tracker.
Yes. Because of that, the Cabal knew exactly where the portal opened. They knew from the beginning, and they're probably not too happy that you and I now share that knowledge.
The witness was right to want to keep their identity a secret. Hopefully they weren't right about us eventually losing our protection as public figures.
Indeed. Huh.
What is it?
Because of the PX-39, they'll know every time the orb is used, every time that a wormhole is opened.
Right. So?
The portal hasn't appeared anywhere else since. Someone would have seen it and called your show about it. Heartland Security must have a concentration on the Foundry because they expect the doorway to open there again. Maybe the Strangels were smart enough to leave the orb on their own world so that it wouldn't be captured if they were.
So someone from over there has to open the portal for them to get back?
Right, at some appointed time. A rendezvous after they've completed their mission.
Whatever that is. We still don't even know why they're here. You said that in the books they were the good guys, right?
No, not all of them. Despite the wings and the glowing eyes, they're more or less just people, like us. Some good, some bad. In fact, before Pendergast had traveled to their world, there was a massive schism among their species in which a large amount of them split off to join the... Well, we'll get into that next time.
But they could be here for nefarious reasons. That's what you're saying?
It's possible. A lot of time has gone by since the Pendergast Chronicles. I don't know what's changed on the other world. Those that are here now may have come in peace, or they could be an advance team, scouts, the vanguard of a coming incursion, who knows. We invaded their world last time. We're still trying to invade their world, so maybe they're planning a preemptive strike of some kind. Oh, sorry, let me turn this off. Oh, dang.
What's wrong?
I'm so sorry, but I have to go.
What? Where? We're kind of in the middle of something here.
Again, I'm sorry. I'll call you later.
But you're my ride!
Right. Is there someone you can call?
I guess I can call Sylvia to come get me.
Thanks, and I'm sorry, Lindsay.
It's fine, go. We'll talk later. So off my partner dashed. I'll be honest, I was miffed. He'd only moments before said that he trusted me implicitly, and then he gets some mystery call and goes scampering away without a word of explanation. I knew I wouldn't be getting my customary nap before the show that night, so I had Piper keep the coffee flowing as I waited for Sylvia to come fetch me. She picked me up about an hour later and drove us to the station, asking me what had happened. Sylvia, like Piper, could see that I was rattled. She thought it was something that happened during our interview with the informant. I simply handed the field recorder to my producer and told her to listen. Once we were back at the station, Sylvia played back the day's recordings.
Now you guys are picking a fight with the government? This is a whole other animal, Lindsay. Interfering in a federal investigation would be bad enough, but this is serious. Black Ops stuff. If you guys get in their way, they'll bury you.
Yeah, I know.
We need to course correct. Maybe for season 2, you guys can go back to investigating what goes bump in the night. People love that crap. But we absolutely cannot continue in this direction. Agreed? Lindsay.
Yes, Sylvia, I hear you. And I agree. We're out of our depth here. Actually, let's just forget season 2 for now.
Really?
It might be better if we just put the whole show on hiatus. I was terrified. Me, the woman who had faced down clawed, fanged, glowing-eyed wretches and come out on top. I had been afraid then, of course, but nothing like I was now. And it was mere people that I feared. People are what really scare me. I think I said that in the Halloween special. Well, I meant it. The Cabal had every resource to put Joseph and I away forever. All I had to do was give them a reason. In season 1, Joseph had warned me that we could only push them so far, that eventually we would force their hand. The Cabal had seemed a shadowy, not quite real thing in those days, but they were real enough to me now. I had just met them earlier that day, and I didn't like what I saw. At the top, I said the cancellation of Circle City Supernatural would have done in this podcast as well. But even though we had managed to keep my radio show afloat, the Endless Elsewhere was still in danger. Danger from me. I came very close to shutting it all down myself. There almost wasn't a season 2, but here you are listening to it, so you know something changed my mind. It was a someone, actually. That night, I took my place behind the mic and did my job. I fielded calls about strange humanoids and even stranger humans. But then came another kind of call. It was different from the others, and it's the reason this podcast still exists. Hello, caller. Welcome to Circle City Supernatural.
Hi, I'm Skarlett.
Hello there, Skarlett. Great name, by the way. So what have you got for us?
I like this show, but I like your podcast more. I just wanted to ask, when is the new season coming out?
Well, honestly, kiddo, I'm not really sure. Actually, there may not be one anymore.
Oh, that would be sad. I really like it. I feel like I know you guys, like you're my friends. Is that stupid?
Not at all. That's not even the first time I've heard that today, but it's just a podcast. There's a million more out there. I'm sure you could find even better ones than mine. There's nothing to be sad about.
No, your podcast is different. To me, anyway.
How so, Skarlett?
It proved that regular people can change the world. All they have to do is be brave enough to try. I don't want to stand by anymore as bad things happen. I want to help. I guess I'm asking, how can I be like you, Lindsay?
Oh. Well, Skarlett, I'm not so sure.
You can't stop now, Lindsay. Your motto. You've done the first 2 parts, but you're forgetting the 3rd one. You did good, you fought evil, but now it's time for you to do it all over again. To repeat.
You know what, kiddo? You're absolutely right. I seem to have forgotten that for a minute there. Skarlett, I want to thank you for your call. It came at the perfect time. Hey, you want to say it for me?
Can I? On the air?
If you're gonna change the world, you better practice.
Okay. Do good, fight evil, repeat.
I'm Lindsay Mallyn, and this is the Endless Elsewhere podcast.